Hi there folks and welcome to the word solutions for this week's The Daily Rigour, issue number 207. So breaking news, all UK drive-thrus at McDonald's are now open, and I did actually hear a wee story that a pupil was bribed with a Happy Meal if they did all their home learning for the week, so maybe there's something in that. Anyway, not all McDonald's have a drive-through, so it's 1019 out of 1249 UK restaurants opened. So what percentage is this? Well, we need to make it a fraction first of all, then we make it a decimal, and then we make it a percentage. That's the system. So it's 1019 out of 1249. But of course the calculation for out of is divide. So we do 1019 divided by 1249. And if we did that calculation we would get the decimal. So to change it to a percentage we multiply by 100. And then when we do that we get 81.585268221 etc etc. So we have to round our answers to one decimal place. So the first decimal place, the tenths, is a 5. And if we go to the hundredths, it's 8. So that means that it's going to be closer to 81.6 rather than 81.5. So to one decimal place, it's 81.6%. Okay, so on to our second story. So as you can see here, we've got a husband who's a self-professed maths genius, and his family, and they want to include some maths reference in the name. So you can understand the mum to be shocked when the husband wants to name the child Cube. So what we've got here is we've got a wee kind of quiz with some questions about cubes. A fantastic mathematical shape for a first name, I'm not so sure. So first of all, how many faces does a cube have? So there's one in the top, it's a square, one in the bottom, one in the left, one in the right, one in the front, one in the back. So that's going to be 6 faces altogether, and of course those 6 faces in a cube are 6 squares. So how many sides does a cube have? So the sides are these lengths here. So we can actually kind of count them. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 in the top. We'd also have 1, 2, 3, 4 in the bottom, and we'd have 1, 2, 3, 4 on the sides. So that's the kind of vertical ones there. So that's going to be 3 lots of 4, and of course 3 lots of 4 when we add them all up is going to come to 12. So 12 sides in a cube. So see how many vertices does a cube have? Now a vertex is basically the point where two sides meet each other, or two or more sides meet each other, should I say. So that's at the kind of points, isn't it? So we've got 4 in the top with all the sides meeting each other, and 4 in the bottom, so that's going to be 8 vertices altogether. So next, what is the volume of a cube with a side length of 10 centimetres? So to get volume, you can actually count the cubes, assuming of course every cube measures 1 centimetre by 1 centimetre. We don't have a diagram like that there, so we basically just have to do the number of rows times the number of columns times by how far that goes through the shape. So we can use a formula, length times breadth times height. And in a cube all the sides are the same length of course, so the length is 10, the breadth is 10 and the height is 10, so we do 10 times 10 times 10. So 10 times 10 is 100, and if we multiply 100 by 10 again, that comes to 1000. And so that basically means is that if you had a cube made up of smaller cubes that each measured 1 centimetre by 1 centimetre by 1 centimetre, then we would need 1000 of them to make that big cube. So your units for volume, because it's to do with counting cubes, our units have to be cubed, so it's 1000 centimetres cubed. So part E, we are asked for the surface area of the cube described in part D, which has got a length of 10 centimetres. So if you think of surface area as like, in terms of like manufacturing with packaging, how much like paper or how much paint would you need to cover the surface of the cube? Well, first of all, we can think about how much paint or paper we would need to cover the surface of this square of the end face. So it's a square, and to calculate area, Again, if it was made up of squares that measured 1 centimetre by 1 centimetre, you could just count the squares. But assuming you can't do that because we don't have a suitable diagram, we could just do the number of rows times the number of columns. So in other words, we could use the formula length times breadth. So the length is 10, the breadth is 10 because it's a square, the face of a cube. So that's going to come to 100. And for area, we don't need cubed units because we're not counting cubes, we're counting squares. So we need squared units. So it'd be 100 centimetres squared. Now that's the area of one of the faces of a cube. But for the total surface area, so that's the area of all of the faces added together, well, we already know we've got 6 faces. So it's 6 lots of 100 centimetres squared. So that's going to give us a final answer of 600 centimetres squared for the surface area there. So congratulations to the happy couple, and we look forward to seeing if he manages to call his child cube when the time comes. No doubt we'll keep you posted. Okay, so on to our next story. So for retail, Heinz have released a 570 piece ketchup jigsaw that's completely red. So do you fancy completing this jigsaw? I mean, look at it. Basically all pieces are the same, like colour and everything, and the only thing that's different about them is the shape. I mean, how long would that take to put together? But anyway, it's 570 pieces, so it's claimed, in honour of the 57 varieties of Heinz that's labelled in every bottle. But can we explain why this puzzle does not actually contain 570 pieces and is in fact a wee bit misleading? Well, you could actually, if you zoomed in the picture, you could count all the pictures individually. I did that just to double check. But basically, we're told in the question that it's 26 rows there's 22 rows with 26 pieces in each row. So it's basically a rectangle. So even though it's not, every piece isn't square, there is one piece in every position. So we could actually do 26 times 22 to work out the area, and the area would give us the number of pieces. Now 26 times 22 does not equal 570, and that's how we can explain why the puzzle doesn't actually contain 570 pieces. And if you counted it, then I'm really sorry. So how many pieces does the puzzle actually contain? Well, we can actually do the multiplication, so length times breadth, so number of rows times the number of columns, and that actually comes to 572 pieces. So did they have to do it that way? Well, could we suggest a more suitable number of rows and columns that would actually give 570 pieces in a rectangle of similar size? So basically what I'm really getting at here is the factor pairs of 570. So, we've got 1 times 570, it gives us 570, but of course that would give us an awful looking rectangle. So 2 is a factor, as in a number that you can divide 570 by exactly with no remainder, because 570 is an even number. And to get the other factor, we just divide 570 by 2. So 3 is a factor because when you add all the digits up, you can divide by 3. And if you do 570 divided by 3, that gives you your other factor pair. So you could have 3 rows of 190 pieces, but again it would make an awful looking rectangle. You can't half 570 and half it again because 285 is odd. So the next one is 5 because it ends in a 0. Divide by 5, we get 114. So the next one, believe it or not, is 6, and that's because 2 and 3 are both factors, and if we divide by 6 we get 95. So the next one is going to be 10 because it ends in a 0, and that's dividing by 10 would give 57. Now this is getting more like it, but still not an ideal rectangle. So we've got 15 because 3 and 5 are factors, so 15 by 38, we're getting more like it. But the last one, we had a sneaky wee extra prime number in here, 19. So 19 and 30, which I would say probably gives us the best rectangle of similar size compared to 22 and 26. So if you're bored during lockdown, order that jigsaw, guys. So on to our sports story. The first 32 matches after the restart have been announced. How many of them will be shown in Sky? So there's one in Amazon. That's one less than BBC, so that'll be 2 in BBC, and 7 in BT, giving 10. So then we just take that away from the 32 matches because the rest are in Sky. So that's 22 games in Sky Sports. And there you have it, folks, our word solutions for this week's Daily Rigour. Hope you enjoyed solving the problems. Stay tuned for next week's edition, when we're going to be looking at more stories from the news of the week and the numbers behind them. But in the meantime, thanks for watching, and bye for now.